Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video by yours truly. It is time to put y'all on game for the man, the myth, the motherfucking legend, the MVP of 2023, the man who single-handedly L+ ratioed the entirety of the Genshin Impact fucking community. God damn it, boy. Come on up in here, Dr. Ratio. Woo! I had to do it that way because if I do it in there, your ears would have been bleeding. You know what I'm saying? Like Sindel from Mortal Kombat screamed in him. All right. Or Uvo from Hunter x Hunter screamed in him. Okay, hold on. I had a lot of coffee. A little hype. Dial it down, Jay. Dial it down just a little bit. We're going to be going over everything there is to know about Dr. Ratio's kit based off of what was revealed in 1.6 live stream. There's a couple of things that you may not have taken into consideration, and there's just certain things that I apparently am good at conveying to you guys that everybody else isn't. So that's not to toot my own horn, that's feedback given to me from you guys. Let's go ahead and get into it, and let's start off with his skill. His skill is nothing fancy. It's just a regular ass skill attack, nothing attached to it. But what makes it valuable is it does synergize with his talent, and his talent is the most valuable thing inside of his kit. It's the bulk of his damage. Everything revolving around him dealing damage will revolve around triggering his talent, which is actually attached to his skill and his ult. We'll go over the details here in a bit, but when you pop his skill, it just deals some regular ass okay multiplier damage. But then the talent says it has a fixed chance to trigger a follow-up attack after using his skill, and then depending on how many debuffs the enemy has on their head, that fixed chance percentage will increase to potentially being guaranteed. Potentially guaranteed if you have enough debuffs on the head, you know what I'm saying? So you obviously want to have like 3 debuffs on the head, like bare minimum, because why would you want to have 1 or 2 when you can have like 3, and potentially guarantee? I'm just saying, food for thought, let it marinate. So getting back to the topic of hand, he also has one of them kits that's like Jing Yuan and Argenti, whereas you pretty much spam his skill. You never ever want a basic attack instead of, outside of like very niche scenarios where maybe you're trying to generate an extra skill point because you're down on skill points, or maybe you're running them on like, I don't know, some off meta composition where you have to auto attack with them. I don't know, but his skill is so valuable that you pretty much want to spam it all day, all long. But debuffs play a pivotal role in the value of his kit. And the good thing about this is you don't have to worry about touching his basic attack when it comes to resource management, right? You can just put all the resources into the skill, the talent, the ult, leave the basic attack alone. If you're somebody who's trying to manage the resources, I'm somebody who never puts, who spends the resources on things that aren't really necessary. Can it contribute? Yeah, but you do not need that shit at all. I'm gonna leave his basic attack at level 1 personally. But moving on to the ultimate. So it's a single target damage ultimate, and the damage isn't really anything to brag home about, I'll be honest with you. However, the ultimate's real value comes out with the Wise Man's Folly, which basically when you hit somebody with his ultimate, it puts Wise Man Folly on them, which enables you to trigger his follow-up attack up to 2 times when anybody other than himself on the team hits that target with the Wise Man's Folly. Keep in mind his talent's multiplier for the follow-up attack. I cannot disclose it because they did not, but it's probably going to be like close to double the multiplier of the skill, right? So if the skill is triggering this follow-up attack and then you pop his ultimate, which enables allies to trigger it as well, you can see a ripple effect of combos popping off with Ratio just spamming fucking markers or whatever the hell he has in his hand at their head. You know what I mean? Bro's like hammering them with the education, dude. But basically you could see him popping off with that combo, right? Follow-up attack or a skill follow-up attack, and then he pops ult, and then somebody else hits him, and then he follow up again. That multiplier can pile up and damage pretty damn fast. The other thing that's worth considering is that because it's a follow-up attack, that doesn't mean, oh, the follow-up attack domain, the relic set that's at that domain, that's the one I gotta put on him. That's the good one, right? Nah. If you look in the footage displayed on 1.6 live stream, Brother's tick is like 1 time on the follow-up attack, which means you're gonna get 1 stack out of those 6 stacks, or is it, yeah, 6 stacks, right? Or is it, oh, it's 8, it's 8. You're gonna get 1 stack out of those 8 stacks. So instead of getting a 48% attack boost on them, you're only gonna get a, what is it, 6% attack boost. So you're gonna have a 20% follow-up attack damage bonus with a 6% attack boost. The follow-up attack set is not where it's at for Dr. Ratio. Trust, you do not want to run that set on him. It is incredibly fucking mid. However, you can run the 2-piece follow-up with like a 2-piece imaginary, or a 2-piece follow-up with 2-piece attack percent. That is an option. What is the best? It depends. It can change from scenario to scenario, because if I'm being honest with you, the imaginary set is actually going to be the best bang for his buck, because you get a 10% crit chance increase. All they have to do is have a debuff on their head, the target you're targeting, and then you get another 20% crit damage when they're imprisoned. But that's the problem with the imaginary set. That 20% crit damage will only be applied when they are imprisoned. So the uptime on it in certain situations can be flaky. But that 10% increase in crit chance is quite valuable, because he has one of those kits that has some good crit rate in it, like the kind of crit rate that enables you to run a crit damage body. And especially if you're running them with the follow-up 2-piece relic set that gives you an 8% increase in crit chance, while also giving you 15% damage bonus to both follow-up attack and ultimate. I think that set is going to be the best 2-piece relic set for him, if I'm being honest. But basically, those are some options you have available, right? 2-piece follow-up, 2-piece imaginary, full imaginary, and then you can even run him with a dot-oriented composition and throw on the dot relic set, right? Because dots count as debuffs. I don't know if you know that, but if you have dots on somebody's head, that's a debuff. So if you run them on a team of dot characters and there's 3 dots on one unit's head and Dr. Ratio attacks that one unit, if you have the dot set on them, that's defensive. It's going to get the full-blown 4-piece activation, right? The defensive shred. So that is another option with Dr. Ratio. He's actually got some range with team composition viability. I personally look forward to running him with the Topaz for that 50% multiplicative follow-up attack damage bonus, because that's the bang. That's all his DPS. It is that follow-up attack. That shit is strong as hell. It triggers 2 times off ult, triggers off skill. You're really focusing around making that follow-up attack deal a ton of damage. So Topaz is a strong benefactor for Ratio. Not the only option, but she's strong for him, 100%. But there's a plethora of team compositions to which we can make in another video. And you know me, I always showcase all that shit when they come out. But let's stay on track here. Moving on to the technique. The technique is an effect hit rate induced technique. It's a dimension as well, which means you can only cast one dimension, right? So if you put him and Welt on the same team, you have to choose which dimension you want to use. I'll be honest with you, Welt's dimension is still better, because it not only decreases their speed, but it also delays their action value. Welt's cracked. Then you go into battle with the debuffs already on the enemy. But him and Welt, you're going to run into a skill point problem. If you do end up doing that comp, you're going to run and put a Hanya on that composition more than likely. And probably like a Ron May as well. Like 2 friendly skill point funneling characters. Lorcha is another option. 100% you can do that. But basically, getting back into it, if you are going to use this technique, it's effect hit rate induced. That's one variable. He also has another variable in his traces that they did not disclose. That's also effect hit rate induced. So you're probably going to have to build some effect hit rate on him. But it's a niche. It's not a must, it's not a must have thing. Like they're not variables that are game changing variables. So, just food for thought on that. You don't have to build effect hit rate. That's like more so if you're trying to min max the shit out of them. Anyways, continuing on, Dr. Debuff. I didn't mean to say that. Dr. Debuff. I'm always goofing. Dr. Ratio, we could call him Dr. Debuff. Bro, debuff the whole Genshin community. Knee slapper, bro. All right. Dr. Ratio, his prevalence with debuffs is actually quite paramount to his performance. Okay, so if you have 5 debuffs on an enemy unit's head, those 5 debuffs are going to increase his performance. They did not disclose it entirely, but let's say, hypothetically speaking, the debuffs on the head correlate to how much crit rate, crit damage, damage bonus Dr. Ratio has. Let's just hypothetically speaking. Let's say the debuffs give him a massive damage bonus. If he has 5 debuffs on the head, he gets a 6% damage bonus per debuff. That's not literal, just throwing out examples. That's why it's important to have as many debuffs on their head. Plus the fixed chance shit I mentioned to you. In order to trigger his talent, they need to have debuffs on their head, because you're not going to be triggering it, or you're going to be playing with RNG otherwise. So debuffs on the head is very important. Now, Dr. Ratio himself has a debuff or two that he can apply already as is. So you don't absolutely need Silverwolf to make Dr. Ratio shine. She's just the easiest unit in the game to make him shine, and she is the best unit as well. But you could totally do units like Pella. You could do freaking Topaz's like Numby Dot, that counts as a debuff, or Numby debuff little symbol. Hanya's Burden, that also counts as a debuff. The dots from dot characters, as I mentioned before, dot characters count, or dots in and of themselves are a debuff. But basically, the more debuffs on the head of the enemy, precisely like 5, you're gonna pretty much get the most bang for your buck out of Dr. Ratio. And finally, the last thing I want to talk to you guys about is his light cone preferences. Honestly, if you have an R5 swordplay, universally banger on any hunt path character. But if you don't, the Hertastore light cone is also a fantastic option with him, making it even easier to run a crit damage body and land crits consistently. You do not need his signature light cone. Will it have a substantial increase in performance? Of course, it's literally pay to win, but you don't need that shit at all. The hunt path light cones are actually really good. The Hertastore one, the R5 swordplay, or R3 swordplay, hell, those two are just incredibly valuable for any hunt path character. They're universally applicable. But that's gonna wrap up this video with regards to how to make Dr. Ratio slap the L sign to every enemy that he's going up against. As always, I hope I brought you guys some good value and insight into his kit. Peace, love, and happiness, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side.